Bennington, New Hampshire, Sirius Satellite. How are you, sir?
Yes, one quick comment. Bernie's plan will cost $3 trillion, and there are 325 million residents in the United States. That turns out to $9,000 per capita. Family 4 will be paying $36,000 effectively for health insurance a year.
And let me tell you this. Everybody won't pay. So it'll even be worse for some people who he will claim are rich, who aren't rich. Maybe you'll have a two-income family. So people who tend to vote Democrat will pay almost nothing, and the rest of us will pay far more than even you're suggesting.
Yep. But that's the average cost per capita.
And by the way, sir, imagine the quality of care that we would get. I mean, it's just incredible to me. I was at the thank you for your call. I was at the DMV today. I've had to do more traveling on the weekends than I typically do. And, I go through TSA. And as we all do. Now, my license, my driver's license, started to crack. And I needed a new one. One of the TSA ladies said to me, it's starting to crack. You may get a new one. And she's right. So this morning, I found some time to go to my local DMV. It's packed. And by the way, I don't blame the people who work at the DMV. It's actually a tough job. These states give them 1,000 things to do. And, I don't blame them. But that's the point. It's a systemic problem. An hour and a half later, I got my photo taken. I gave them the information. They already have it on file. All I need is a replacement one. I have a temporary one now. They're going to mail me the other one, so forth, on and on and on. An hour and a half. Not because people were lazy. The people were working hard, quite frankly. They were moving quickly as they could. They have a big board there with numbers and alphabet. I don't know how they have it organized, but it wasn't organized poorly. It just took a long time. That's the problem. That's the problem. We can't even fix the VA, despite all the celebration that the VA's been fixed. The VA will never be fixed. I hate to tell you this. It'll never be fixed. You want to know why? Because it's run by the government like an old Stalinist medical system. It means some people will be taken care of. Some people will have good doctors. Some people will have good experiences. But an awful lot will not. Some people will see their lives prolonged, but some people will see their lives shortened. And we've seen that too. It's not a high quality across the board. It's just not. And it's certainly not as high quality as the private sector, where at least you used to be able to choose your doctors, your hospitals, and so forth. Less so now because of the government. But can you imagine 100% control of our healthcare system? And they act like you're going to get quality healthcare when you need it and how you need it. That's not how it works. When it comes to Obamacare, do they give a damn about you? No. Do they give a damn about the deductibles? They're massive. No. Do they give a damn about the premium prices? No. Do they give a damn about the fact that you don't have any choices? If you live in California like my kids do, you basically have two choices, and that's it. Take it or leave it. Take it or leave it. Well, two choices does not make for a choice, really. It doesn't make for a choice, really. And I'm sure many of you have similar experiences. You don't need to call. I'm sure you do. So all those compassionate liberal Democrats, where are they now? Nowhere. And where are the Republicans who are going to repeal it? Where are they? Nowhere. You get a single-payer system, it changes your country for the rest of the time, changes the form of government for the rest of the time, and changes your health care for the rest of the time. Not to mention the never-ending expense. The never-ending expense. Let's go to George, Chicago, Illinois, the great WLS country. Go ahead.
Hi. Mark, I love the show. My point is about convention of states.
Yeah.
I think it's a great idea. However, if we don't have virtuous politicians, they'll violate the new Constitution. So I think we should just keep replacing.
Well, I don't agree. I believe we won't have virtuous politicians. But if you look at, for example, the reform amendments that I proposed, much of the power is moved to the state legislatures. And also, there are certain aspects with respect to the Constitution, spending, borrowing, and taxing, that are enshrined in the Constitution with actual limits. So there wouldn't be the ability for politicians to make decisions of that sort. They try and take language and twist it. So it's important that the language that is used is very specific. Moreover, you can't leave it to Washington to police Washington. And that's why, at least in the reform amendments that I propose, 3/5 of the states have power over a final Supreme Court decision. That is, they can hold it null and void, and the states can reverse certain federal regulations, and the states will have a direct route, although difficult, for amending the Constitution without having to go through a convention or without having to go through the federal government. So it depends what you do. If it is your position that there's nothing we can do, then it's over.
It is not. Sir,
right.
My position is that they don't follow the Constitution now.
But I just explained to you, they don't follow the Constitution now. If they don't matter and some of the power is returned to the states, then the they, that is the Congress, the bureaucracy, and the federal courts, in some instances have little or no say, or are held to account or in check by the state legislatures. There's no other way to do this. I'll be right back. Diana, Springfield, Illinois, on the Mark Levin app. How are you?
Hey, Mark, how's it going? Hey, we really appreciate everything you do here and stuff, and you keep going and get them.
Well, thank you. Illinois, the land of Lincoln and the land of little Dick Durbin.
That's right. Well, yeah, little Dick Durbin's right, but in reference to this Michael Cohen stuff, okay, so how can he violated his attorney-client privilege getting them tapes and stuff. I want to know how that they can use those anyway, even though
First of all, he violated confidentiality, not to be too technical, by making the tapes. And then in my view, he violated attorney-client privilege by turning them over, assuming they involve his client, not just the press, to any government official. Your question is, how can they use the tapes? Well, we have a federal judge. She's extremely liberal in Manhattan. Her name is Kimba Wood, and she appointed a master who is also a very liberal woman who is overseeing this project of eviscerating what's left of attorney-client relationships, and she's calling the shots. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm listening.
So she's sitting there as a special master and making the decisions, apparently. Now, the leaking, that's separate and apart. Either Cohen or Lanny Davis and or somebody else in that circle. I'm not saying it's Lanny. I don't know. They're obviously leaking. Yeah. And that in itself could be the basis for disbarment.
And, it's so important. This midterm election, I think, is going to be one of the most important that we've ever had, and I just hope that people vote Republican, because if them Democrats get in charge, we're going to be in big trouble,
Steve Bannon said something the other day, or maybe it was today, I'm not sure, which I have now been saying for some time. And that is, in this particular election, in this midterm, you better vote for Republican. Not because you expect them to secure the border, not because you expect them to cut the spending, because they're not, but in order to protect the President of the United States. Because if they take the House, it's over. They will subpoena. I talked about this. I've talked about it repeatedly. They will bog him down in subpoenas and document requests and investigations. They will rip his staff to pieces. They will stop any appropriations bills from going through. They will shut down the government. We will have absolute anarchy.
And you're right. The way that they treat this president, it's unprecedented. I've never, ever seen or heard anything like what they're doing to this man. And the press is just it's out of control. Every night. Because it's not really a free press. And I've been spending a lot of time talking about this. In the sense that certainly they're free
to broadcast, free to print, free to speak, that sort of thing. But it's not a free press in the sense that a free press was intended. What they're doing is making it more and more difficult for the republic to function. And what they're trying to do is so burden this president. When you see these people yelling questions, they're not really questions that we don't already know about. They're doing it to disrupt him. So to disrupt this presidency, undermine it, and sabotage it. I mean, that's the truth, isn't it?
If the elections go okay and the Republicans stay in charge, that they'll finally be done with this Russian stuff. Because I don't
know about that. Mr. Mueller is he's not he doesn't exist as a consequence of any election, and that's part of the problem. All right, Diana, I appreciate your excellent call. Let's continue, shall we? Helen, Westchester, New York, the great WABC. Go.
Mark, this is a great pleasure to speak with you.
Thank you.
I was just listening to your last caller, and I wanted to just say something on that. The constant beat of the liberal drum is really starting to hurt the silent majority in this country. I don't think we're going to stand for anything. If the House is taken over by the Democrats, it's not the end. Maybe just the beginning, because we have had enough. And there's
well, maybe it's the beginning of the end. It's not enough to have enough. It's not enough to have enough. We have people who are now ruling over us, and they do not want to give up their power. And if they get more power, it's one thing to be furious in the privacy of your home, at your dinner table, in your workplace, in your own mind, and so forth and so on. But I do not want to, I can't overstate this, which is we are, in my view, and I've been saying this is, and people rejoice, oh, what do you mean? We're moving towards a tyranny. We are in somewhat of a soft tyranny. That's not to say you can't see movies, you can't buy your iPhone, this, that, and the other. But when it actually comes to many aspects of your life, the circle of liberty is getting smaller and smaller and smaller, whether it's choosing health care, whether it's what your kids are free to say on college campuses, and on and on and on. So it's not enough for people to say, we're not going to put up with it anymore. Well, apparently we are. No. What are we going to do?
Something a little more drastic, I believe, is on the horizon. It's happened before in America. And
but you know what? When societies collapse and everything you have is destroyed or potentially destroyed, it's not a very pretty thing. And sometimes the good guys don't win.
No.
All right, my friend, I appreciate your call. I very much do. Tim, Shreveport, Louisiana, XM Satellite, go.
Mark, if I was to be able to pick Attorney General, you were the man.
Thank you. I'd need a recess appointment because something tells me I'd probably get 3 votes in the Senate.
You were my first pick when President Trump was elected, but I feel like you made the statement about us being insignificant. We already feel insignificant. And we feel like we can't do anything when you have politicians that lie. They lie against the accomplishments of this administration. They lie about their investigations. I don't understand how do we hold them accountable? There's got to be some way to hold these people accountable for all the lies they tell.
I want to send you a copy, so Mr. Producer and Mr. Call Screener, don't hang up, Tim, of the Liberty Amendments. And I want you to become active in this in Louisiana.
I think they ought to be in the government classes in every high school as textbooks.
Thank you. Thank you. You're very, very kind. Don't hang up, Tim. Appreciate it. One of the things I love about doing this show is the diverse geography, the diverse accents. And you know what? It makes me feel really great, and I hope it does with you too. We're talking to a lady from New York City. Let's go to Israel in Morristown, New Jersey, the great WABC. Yes, sir. Go right ahead.
Yeah, you mentioned earlier that there's really nothing we could do other than the Convention of States. I want to suggest that in 99 days from now, there's actually going to be an election where the American people have the opportunity.
All right, Israel, we're well aware that the question was raised in the context of a systemic problem. And in terms of dealing with the systemic problem, the out-of-control courts, the out-of-control spending, out-of-control federal government generally, and the post-constitutional consequences of this, we are going to vote, and we understand what voting means, but that won't fix almost 100 years of what the progressives have done to the constitutional order.
May I suggest how we can actually fix it in this election? Basically, what the progressives have done, they've taken over the power. What we have to do, basically, is to vote for people that are not progressive. In fact, there is a way to do it by basically going across party lines and voting on principle, and only voting for those who actually commit to restore the Constitution.
Sir, were you part of the Tea Party movement?
There's actually a website where...
Can you answer? No. I'm not going to let you hawk a website. I asked you a question. Were you part of the Tea Party movement?
Oh, I've been part of the Tea Party movement.
How many Tea Party conservatives did we send to Congress who turned on us?
That is the problem. That's true.
Oh, it is a problem. That is true. How many people have turned on us who said they're conservative and they turn out not to be? You can keep doing this, and you'll get the biggest budget in American history, and you'll have open borders and so forth. I will be voting Republican for somebody who's a dear friend and I'm gravely disappointed in because I want to protect this president, and I want to protect the Constitution. And this effort to overthrow this president with baseless impeachment charges requires my vote to try and stop it. But I'm not going to say to my audience here with some Pollyanna answer that just keep voting Republican and just keep trying to do the best you can, appoint conservative or constitutionals to the courts, and that'll fix it. That's not correct. It won't.
If we vote for...
Thanks for your call. Doesn't matter what I say. Because he doesn't want to get his hands dirty. He doesn't want to get involved in the Convention of States. Look, I was active in the Reagan campaign in 76 and 80. I served in his administration for 8 years. It was a golden period for this country. And he set a foundation on which the Bush family could have built. But they didn't. They lurched back to the Republican progressivism of Theodore Roosevelt. And so many Republicans since and before. And the fact of the matter is, as I've said before, we really have only had 2 conservative presidents in the last century, and that was Coolidge and Reagan. And hopefully Trump will turn out to be one as well. But those are the only 2 in the last century. We've had soft progressives for the most part. And so we've now reached a point, in my view, where we need to use the Constitution to save the Constitution. You'll have people who write books and write articles and go on and on about progressivism, what a danger it is, where our country's going, and then when you come up with the answers and how and some of the solutions, it's no, you can't do that. Just vote. A lot of the never-Trumpers are that way. So let us go to John in Los Angeles, 870 The Answer, KRLA. Go.
Mark, thank you so much for supporting Convention of States. I saw that Fox News piece, and it was really disgraceful how they treated Mark Meckler. It's wrong. I wanted to comment to you.
And not only that, they were utterly ignorant.
Absolutely. They didn't know what they were talking about. They were big government, and that was it. But I wanted to just comment to you. I feel as though the American people have lost the idea of being a citizen, and we're being forced into the old 18th century subject model. Mm-hmm. That's what all of this large government progressivism is all about. And I have this on my personal level. I'm trying to convert my garage into a bedroom, and the amount of hoops that I have to go through simply in the city government to get a permit to change the structure of my own home that I'm paying the mortgage on and the property taxes on is outrageous. And
John, you might be right. You may well be right. All right, I hope you're wrong, but you may be right. I'll be right back.